when I saw your tweets saying this is how ITV does diversity, I thought you were just addressing the fact that they've got four overweight women there. I didn't realize that you were pointing out it's because they're black. I don't know
They're very
Charlene, is it
similar in a whole
Charlene?
load of ways, aren't they?
I don't know Charlene White because I don't watch the horrible program, but I do find the irony of her name quite funny. I mean, clearly we live in a predominantly white country. Of course, the Lions would be predominantly white. We would expect that. If they were predominantly black, that would be interesting. Um, that which is why having an all-black panel on a British TV show is interesting and should be pointed out because it's clearly counter demographic, right? It's overcompensating for something. It's not demographically representative. And so when you point it out, you're making a clear statement that something is there's off balance here. That's not racist. That's just obvious.
Now, breaking right now, Charlene White, the Loose Women presenter, who targeted me with disgusting claims of inciting racism and hatred against black people with absolutely no evidence, has now been exposed as a massive hypocrite. I'll tell you why in just a moment, and Father Calvin Robinson will react. But first, I just want to bring you up to date on the story. So, Loose Women is making a very obvious point by very regularly putting four black female presenters to make up the entire panel, despite the fact that they claim to care about diversity, despite the fact that all four of these women actually come from a very similar background, both in terms of class and political belief, and they're all good mates who think the same way. They're all infected, you might say, by the woke mind virus. And I simply pointed out in a viral post on X that this is how ITV, woke ITV as I call it, does diversity. That's all I said. Simply pointing out the fact that there you have an all-black panel in a majority white country, the type of thing that actually doesn't truly represent diversity. Well, the very bitter and twisted Charlene White, who thinks she is far more talented than what she is, because in fact, this is a woman whose career has been boosted by DEI, and that's just a fact. She was a little known local TV presenter who all of a sudden, when ITV started to get criticized over the Black Lives Matter movement, all of a sudden became one of their biggest stars because they desperately needed a black female news presenter. She went crazy. She lost the plot. Writing, "Bitterness is a very lonely color, Dan. Black women face some of the worst abuse on social media. That is a fact." So this man with a following of almost 500,000, well, it's actually over 500,000, Charlene, decides to target four black women for having successful careers, riling the racists for clout and clicks. It really is the weirdest pastime. Now, you saw what I said. I absolutely didn't target four black women for having a successful career. I certainly didn't want to rile any racists. I wasn't doing that. I was talking about the complete hypocrisy of ITV having one rule for the majority population in the country and then one rule for another. And I do think this is a discussion that we have to have. And what I find particularly infuriating is that I'm a gay man. I mean, I don't like talking about it. It's such a tiny part of me. But imagine if every time I was criticized, I tried to start saying, it's homophobia. No, we have to be able to have these debates without the inciting racism, the inciting hate thing being thrown around. But Judy Love, apparently this woman is a comedian. I mean, I've never heard her say anything funny, but she joined in saying, she's on the panel, by the way, saying, well, someone was bored today. However, inciting hate and racism towards four hardworking, successful black women really shows the low level some are willing to go for attention. It's crazy how much it bothers some to see us on TV. But guess what? We'll be back again soon. Doesn't bother me to see them on TV at all. I'm just making a point that if ITV thinks it's so shocking to have an all-black presenting lineup to the point where they sack Eamon Holmes in order to bring in Alison Hammond, then I really struggle to see why I shouldn't be able to talk about that hypocrisy. But what has come to light is that Charlene White is a major hypocrite, because Charlene White thinks it's completely okay to question why a football team, a British football team, the Lionesses, an England football team, the Lionesses, happened to be all white on a particular occasion. Now, this was Martin Cranfield who posted to Charlene White, and I thought this was a very reasonable post saying, Charlene White reporting on the magnificent Lionesses Euro win. You debate the lack of black players. You perpetuate the racism issue. It's about talent. You don't pick players on proportionality of race, creed, colour, etc. Disgraceful. Just stick to the news. Now, I think that's a completely fair comment that Martin Cranfield posted to Charlene White. I very much agree with him. But Charlene White responded saying, to you and others who are furiously tweeting me about asking Leanne Anderson about diversity in football just now on the evening news, know this. Your comments neither impact me nor bother me. It simply reinforces the need for such questions to be asked. So, Father Calvin Robinson, what we have here is Charlene White trying to say that I am inciting racism and hatred for simply pointing out, I didn't even say ITV shouldn't do it, for simply pointing out, okay, this is how woke ITV views diversity, 4 black women on a panel. But she is allowed to question why the Lionesses have an all-white lineup. So we live in this two-tier world, and I'm sorry, Calvin, I'm not just going to blindly stand by and not respond to these things because I'm so scared of someone calling me a racist, because I'm not a racist. I abhor racism, but I am a colorblind individual. I don't believe in critical race theory. And I don't believe in positive discrimination, actually.
I've got to be honest, when I saw your tweets saying this is how ITV does diversity, I thought you were just addressing the fact that they've got 4 overweight women there. I didn't realize that you were pointing out it's because they're black. I don't know.
They're very similar in a whole load of ways, aren't they?
I don't know Charlene White because I don't watch the horrible program, but I do find the irony of her name quite funny. I mean, clearly we live in a predominantly white country. Of course, the Lions would be predominantly white. We would expect that. If they were predominantly black, that would be interesting. Which is why having an all-black panel on a British TV show is interesting and should be pointed out, because it's clearly counter-demographic, right? It's overcompensating for something. It's not demographically representative. And so when you point it out, you're making a clear statement that something there's off balance here. That's not racist. That's just obvious. Her overly defensive response shows that she knows the only reason she and her colleagues are there is because of the color of her skin, not her talent, not her merit. That's sad. You got to feel sorry for her, because that's really embarrassing, really, to get a job because of how you look rather than how good you are.
Yes, of course. But that's why I think it's absolutely despicable that they are so quick to call out people for being racist. I mean, as we've seen from the whole Lawrence Fox debacle, and I believe that's still going through the courts and he's hoping to appeal, but the problem is, Calvin, that the term racist has just been degraded so much in society. It's the type of thing that a few years ago, if you were called a racist, you would think, oh my goodness, that's going to end my career. But now it's just bandied around simply because people have debates. But actually, how is it racist to debate whether it's true diversity to have 4 black women on a panel when it's not considered racist to have a debate about whether it's acceptable to have 4 white women on a panel?
And you're a massive racist, but that tweet was not racist. Again, of course, you're not racist. But I mean, it's just, the word means no. It's just stupid. We have to just brush it off, because if that's all they've got to throw at us, then we can just keep saying, okay, and yeah. What? Because they can't back it up. There's no evidence ever. You highlight a problem, or not even a problem, you highlight something that you observe. Highlighting something isn't racist. Racism is prejudice or discrimination against someone based on the color of their skin. You are being prejudiced.
And by the way, as you know, Calvin, I mean, we're sort of free speech guys, aren't we? So when I point these things out, it's very different to the left, where I say, or the hysterical tabloid media, where they say this shouldn't happen, this should be banned. I'm not saying ITV can't put 4 black women on a panel. Absolutely, go ahead. If that's what you want to do and you think that's going to be commercially successful for you, then fine. But the thing is, Calvin, I've looked at the ratings for Loose Women. They have absolutely plummeted over the past few years. And it's not particularly a surprise, is it? Because people want to see themselves on TV. And we do live in a majority white country. And the thing about the type of diversity that Loose Women does is it's a very unique, narrow group of people because all of those four women are the same. You know, they're all London based. They're all from a very similar background, Afro-Caribbean background. They all think similar things. I mean, there's no Asian woman there, is there? There's no Muslim woman there. I'm not saying there should be, but what I am saying is it's very, very odd that TV in particular views diversity as black. And actually,
and they don't like diversity. It's not true diversity. You're right that
no.
they're all the same. They think the same. They look the same. The problem is on that horrible show. What was it, Loose Woman? They used to have a bit of diversity. They had Carol McGiffin. They got rid of her
Yes,
because she didn't fit the mold. And this is the problem. They want
exactly.
everyone to fit the mold,
Political diversity.
which is the only diversity that matters, diversity of thought and opinion. And so when they had that, maybe it had some content, but now that that's gone, who's going to watch these women screeching at each other, thinking that everyone that disagrees with them is a monster? It's awful content. No wonder nobody tunes in anymore.
And of course, on this particular show, Calvin, they debated the issue of Chris Kappa, and it was after it had been revealed that this guy was one of London's biggest ganglang thugs, and yes, he'd been shot dead by the police, but he had been trying to shoot people in a nightclub and on the street in the days beforehand. But of course, there was no debate on the Loose Women panel. They all broadly thought the same thing about this case, and that shows you, doesn't it, that the diversity is never diversity of thought, it's never diversity of opinion, it's only diversity of skin color.
Not even that. There's no diversity in that panel. They were all the same skin color. So there's no diversity at all. I don't actually believe we need diversity. And I don't think the people who promote diversity think we need diversity. All they mean is they want more people like them. That's all. But they're not willing to say it.
Yeah. But the thing is that there is now an issue of overcompensation. And this has always been my problem because I'm like, absolutely, there should be an equal representation overall. I mean, I'm not offended that, you know, all of the Friends cast happen to be white. I'm not offended that every member of Boyzone happened to be white. Just in the same way, by the way, I'm not offended that every member of Destiny's Child or TLC were black. I mean, I have no issue with that whatsoever. But broadly, you want to have the population represented. I get that. But ITV, if you watched ITV, you know, you would genuinely believe that we lived in a country where there was a 50% black population.
Well, that's projection, isn't it? That's what they want. That's the country they want. They want to eradicate the white Briton, the white Englishman, and they're having some quite good success at doing that too. But they're projecting it in the media too, and so they're showing you this is what the country is going to look like.
But first, we've partnered with Gundry MD to share this information with you. Would you believe me if I told you inside your pantry right now is one of the healthiest foods on the planet? Yes, it's true. And it's not some weird, trendy superfood. Spoiler alert, it's olive oil. You've probably used to cooking with it, but there are countless ways to use olive oil to help yourself look and feel younger. For example, olive oil is a natural way to help you achieve a more youthful appearance. Besides helping you look younger on the outside, it's a fantastic tool for your insides as well. According to Dr. Stephen Gundry, a famous cardiothoracic surgeon, nutrition expert, and health advocate, you should get as much high-quality olive oil into your daily routine as possible, whether it's taking a shot of it daily or keeping a bottle of it in your bathroom medicine cabinet. But what kind of olive oil is best for your health? Well, any olive oil can give you some benefits, but if you're looking to get the best results, it matters a lot which one you pick. The olive oil industry is huge, you see. You can tell by the number of olive oil brands you can see at the grocery store, and you can bet they're not all made with the consumer in mind. And many brands may even cut corners one way or another to increase profits. When Dr. Gundry came to that realization, he was appalled. But some olive oils are so powerful, it may only take a few tablespoons a week to see these incredible health benefits. So how can you tell between an olive oil that can be a health booster and which one isn't up to par? Well, in an effort to answer that question, Dr. Gundry has decided to take a stand and release his personal research and findings. This video has gone viral since its release, and it's important you see it so you can start benefiting immediately. So you can watch the video right now by going to getolive1.com/outspoken, or you can just click on the link in the description box below. So that's getolive1.com/outspoken, or you can just click in the description box below on the link. People who have taken his advice have shared their results with him, saying the olive oil they brought after learning his simple rules have helped change their lives. So make sure you go to getolive1.com/outspoken or click on the link in the description box below this video. But now, back to the show. So let me bring in two fabulous superstar journalists now, Georgia Leah Gaholi and Angela Levin. So, Georgia, can you understand why I'm so angry about this? Because I was certainly not doing anything that Charlene White and Judy Love accused me of, but what it feels like they want to do is shut down any debate around positive discrimination practices, which are very much in place at ITV, and say that if you want to debate those practices, you're a racist, you're inciting hate.
Absolutely. In your tweet, nothing about race was mentioned. However, that's instantly what the panelists jumped to. I think that's unfortunate. I think without obviously wanting to read too much into her own mindset, there could be some kind of victim mentality there, or maybe she herself wanted to rile up her own followers, for example. I actually, as a huge coincidence, I believe I watched the show that day because I recognized the ladies' outfits, and they discussed the matter of Chris Cabba being killed by a Met Police officer and the kind of the controversy that came after that. And I was kind of baffled. I was sort of listening to it in the background, how they all seem to agree somewhat that possibly something had been done wrong, or they seem to kind of view Chris Cabba as some kind of victim. There was a bit of disagreement, but they seemed all to kind of at least think that maybe, people were right to, bring this matter to trial. And obviously we know what happened. The police officer was in the right. Chris Cabba was quite violently resisting arrest, and this was someone who had, a pretty horrific track record involved in gang culture, unfortunately. And I think it's tragic that someone's life gets to that, obviously, but they have responsibility for that. And I think there's kind of this approach in the progressive media, which I would say that Loose Women is probably a bit more open to debate because it's a panel show than a lot of shows. However, they don't necessarily have people who are openly right-wing on it often. And I think that's obvious. It's quite similar to the show The View in America, which kind of maybe 10, 15 years ago, they may have had more conservative people on, but now it's just kind of, it really is an echo chamber. And I think it's obvious from the way she responded that is the kind of the ITV mindset, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's groupthink, isn't it? And that groupthink perpetuates through the panel. And actually, Carol McGiffin, who was the best Loose Women by far, she came on my GB News show a couple of years ago to say she'd had to leave because it's so woke, and actually they didn't tolerate anyone who went against the groupthink. But Angela Levin, the point I was trying to make was that surely if you're saying it's unacceptable to have 4 white panelists on something, then it's also unacceptable to have 4 black panelists on something. There needs to be genuine diversity.
Well, I don't think quite the same as you in this case. I think that actually so many people are now sort of wound up with anger and frustration. And I think that they expose all that. And the smallest thing, they burst with anger and make ridiculous accusations. And I think that there's something wrong with the whole of society at the moment, because we are all very angry and frustrated about almost everything. And I think the way, telling you what to do, but the way to do it, in my view, is to ignore it and just let people get on with it, and it passes. And I think that we mustn't sort of nitpick on that. Other people can, ITV can, let them do it. But actually, you can just get on with it in your own way. And you're not a racist at all. I've never seen the slightest ignition of that. And I think that we just have to try and be ourselves and not bother about a lot of people who are desperate to be woke and want to try anything to sort of win that battle. And actually they can't, because they're not sort of made for that. So they do all sorts of other things and then get very angry.
Yeah, and I actually think, Georgia, that's a really fair point. But the thing is, I was never saying ITV can't do this. They are a commercial organisation. They can do whatever they want. But I think that there should be able to be a debate around it. That was my point. And actually, my tweet literally said how woke ITV does diversity. I was stating a fact. I wasn't saying they shouldn't do this. But what I found so offensive is the fact that that tweet was then used to create an accusation of me inciting hate and racism, which is actually completely untrue, totally libelous, actually. And very often what people on the left do in order to shut down debate, because they want to terrify any white person, for example, into never questioning positive discrimination, even though I know for sure, Georgia, that ITV, for example, lots of my former colleagues, I mean, for people who don't know, I actually worked at ITV Daytime for 10 years. I know how they operate very, very well. I was the showbiz presenter on The Lorraine Show, which sort of was part of the same stable as Loose Women. And I know lots of the Loose Women. I know lots of the people who work behind the scenes. But I also know there's been lots of people at ITV who have been told, you are losing your job on screen because we are specifically hiring a black person for the job. Now, they don't talk about we need to hire a working class person. They don't talk about we need to hire an Asian person. ITV has a very specific mindset of what they consider diversity. And I believe that it's wrong.
Absolutely, I agree with Angela that obviously when it comes to our personal lives, it's better to keep a cool head always. But I think when it comes to an organisation like ITV, as you're saying, Dan, they have a huge amount of influence, probably the second biggest TV organisation in the country. And I think that what you're saying about them having these targets to hire specifically black people or black women, or, you know, saying that it's wrong to have an all-white panel, I think it's sad. And I think it implies that there's something wrong with being with being white, sorry. And I think it also risks elevating people for reasons other than merit. And let's be real, you know, traditional television, the viewer figures are going down. Surely they want to inspire more people to tune in rather than putting people there, you know, because they tick a certain box. And I know, you know, obviously Loose Women isn't all in the program, but let's say, for example, if I were hired because of my religious background or because of where I'm from, I think I would be quite upset and quite downtrodden. And I would think, why are they not hiring me, you know, on merit? And I think it's just not helpful. And I think, of course, you know, Loose Women, you know, it's not Politics Live. It's not a really high, lofty intellectual debate type show. It's not for that. It's for these kind of casual debates about important issues. But I think it's political without realizing it. It's kind of, it buys into this woke ideology without even realizing it, because that is the norm now. And I think that's quite dangerous. And I think people are tuning out. Probably, you know, that is one of the reasons why.
No, absolutely. They absolutely are. And look, I didn't say in my X post, maybe it would have been unkind for me to do so, but Charlene White is one of those people who has very much benefited from positive discrimination. She's not a talented woman, and she has got a lot of work because of diversity quotas. Now, that is okay if that's what ITV wants to do, but I do think it does actually mean there are other people now who have been overlooked for jobs. And personally, I don't believe in positive discrimination at all. But I just think we should be able to have the debate without revolting accusations about racism and inciting hate thrown around. But Georgia Leah Gaholi, thank you so much. So brilliant to have you on Outspoken for the first time today. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.